chain apparently removed from her person with violence. Against all of this is, of course, his known character. He is the gentlest and most amiable of men, and his subsequent conduct, imbecile to the last degree if he had been guilty, but as a lawyer I can't help seeing that the appearances are almost hopelessly against him." "We won't say hopelessly," replied Thorndyke, as we took our places in the carriage, "though I expect the police are pretty cocksure. When does the inquest open?" "To day at 4. I have obtained an order from the coroner for you to examine the body and be present at the post mortem." "Do you happen to know the exact position of the wound?" "Yes. It is a little above and behind the left ear, a horrible round hole, with a ragged cut or tear running from it to the side of the forehead." "And how was the body lying?" "Right along the floor, with the feet close to the off side door." "Was the wound on the head the only one?" "No. There was a long cut or bruise on the right cheek, a contused wound the police surgeon called it, which he believes to have been inflicted with a heavy and rather blunt weapon. I have not heard of any other wounds or bruises." "Did anyone enter the train yesterday at Shinglehurst?" Thorndyke asked. "No one entered the train after it had left Halbury." Thorndyke considered these statements in silence, and presently fell into a brown study, from which he roused only as the train moved out of the Shinglehurst station. "It would be about here that the murder was committed," said Mr. Stopford. "At least, between here and Woldhurst." Thorndyke nodded rather abstractedly, being engaged at the moment in observing with great attention the objects that were visible from the windows. "I notice," he said presently, "a number of chips scattered about between the rails, and some of the chair wedges look new. Have there been any plate layers at work lately?" "Yes," answered Stopford. "They are on the line now, I believe. At least, I saw a gang working near Woldhurst yesterday, and they are said to have set a rick on fire. I saw it smoking when I came down." "Indeed! And this middle line of rails is, I suppose, a sort of siding?" "Yes. They shunt the goods train and empty trucks on to it. There are the remains of the rick, still smouldering, you see." Thorndyke gazed absently at the blackened heap until an empty cattle truck in the middle track hid it from view. This was succeeded by a line of goods wagons, and these by a passenger coach, one compartment of which, first class, was closed up and sealed. The train now began to slow down rather suddenly, and a couple of minutes later we brought up in Woldhurst station. It was evident that rumors of Thorndyke's advent had preceded us, for the entire staff, 2 porters, an inspector, and the station master, were waiting expectantly on the platform, and the latter came forward, regardless of his dignity, to help us with the luggage. "Do you think I could see the carriage?" Thorndyke asked the solicitor. "Not the inside, sir," said the station master, on being appealed to. "The police have sealed it up. You would have to ask the inspector." "Well, I can look at the outside, I suppose," said Thorndyke, and to this the station master readily agreed, and offered to accompany us. "What other first-class passengers were there?" Thorndyke asked. "None, sir. There was only one first-class coach, and the deceased was the only person in it. It has given us all a dreadful turn, this affair has," he continued, as we set off up the line. "I was on the platform when the train came in. We were watching a rick that was burning up the line, and a rare blaze it made, too. And I was just saying that we should have to move the cattle truck that was on the mid-track, because, you see, sir, the smoke and sparks were blowing across, and I thought it would frighten the poor beasts. And Mr. Felton, he don't like his beasts handled roughly. He says it spoils the meat." "No doubt he is right," said Thorndyke. "But now tell me, do you think it is possible for any person to board or leave the train on the off side unobserved? Could a man, for instance, enter a compartment on the off side at one station, and drop off as the train was slowing down at the next without being seen?" "I doubt it," replied the station master. "Still, I wouldn't say it is impossible." "Thank you. Oh, and there's another question. You have a gang of men at work on the line, I see. Now, do those men belong to the district?" "No, sir. They are strangers every one, and pretty rough diamonds some of 'em are. But I shouldn't say there was any real harm in 'em. If you was suspecting any of 'em being mixed up in this—" "I am not," interrupted Thorndyke rather shortly. I suspect nobody, but I wish to get all the facts of the case at the outset." "Naturally, sir," replied the abashed official, and we pursued our way in silence. "Do you remember, by the way," said Thorndyke, as we approached the empty coach, "whether the off-side door of the compartment was closed and locked when the body was discovered?" "It was closed, sir, but not locked. Why, sir, did you think—" "Nothing, nothing. The sealed compartment is the one, of course." Without waiting for a reply, he commenced his survey of the coach, while I gently restrained our two companions from shadowing him, as they were disposed to do. The off-side footboard occupied his attention specially, and when he had scrutinized minutely the part opposite the fatal compartment, he walked slowly from end to end, with his eyes but a few inches from its surface, as though he was searching for something. Near what had been the rear end he stopped, and drew from his pocket a piece of paper. Then, with a moistened finger-tip, he picked up from the footboard some evidently minute object, which he carefully transferred to the paper, folding the latter and placing it in his pocket-book. He next mounted the footboard, and having peered in through the window of the sealed compartment, produced from his pocket a small insufflator, or powder-blower, with which he blew a stream of impalpable smoke-like powder on to the edges of the middle window, bestowing the closest attention on the irregular dusty patches in which it settled, and even measuring one on the jamb of the window with a pocket-rule. At length he stepped down, and having carefully looked over the near-side footboard, announced that he had finished for the present. As we were returning down the line we passed a working man, who seemed to be viewing the chairs and sleepers with more than casual interest. "That, I suppose, is one of the plate-layers?" Thorndyke suggested to the station-master. "Yes, the foreman of the gang," was the reply. "I'll just step back and have a word with him, if you will walk on slowly." And my companion turned back briskly and overtook the man, with whom he remained in conversation for some minutes. "I think I see the police inspector on the platform," remarked Thorndyke, as we approached the station. "Yes, there he is," said our guide. "Come down to see what you are after, sir, I expect." Which was doubtless the case, although the officer professed to be there by the merest chance. "You would like to see the weapons, sir, I suppose?" he remarked when he had introduced himself. "The umbrella spike," Thorndyke corrected. "Yes, if I may. We are going to the mortuary now." "Then you'll pass the station on the way, so, if you care to look in, I will walk up with you." This proposition being agreed to, we all proceeded to the police station, including the station-master, who was on the very tiptoe of curiosity. "There you are, sir," said the inspector, unlocking his office and ushering us in. "Don't say we haven't given every facility to the defense. There are all the effects of the accused, including the very weapon the deed was done with." "Come, come," protested Thorndyke, "we mustn't be premature." He took the stout ash staff from the officer, and having examined the formidable spike through a lens, drew from his pocket a steel caliper gauge, with which he carefully measured the diameter of the spike, and the staff to which it was fixed. "And now," he said, when he had made a note of the measurements in his book, "we will look at the color box and the sketch. Ha! ha! A very orderly man, your brother, Mr. Stopford. Tubes in all their places, palette knives wiped clean, palette cleaned off and rubbed bright, brushes wiped. They ought to be washed before they stiffen. All this is very significant." He unstrapped the sketch from the blank canvas to which it was pinned, and, standing on a chair in a good light, stepped back to look at it. "And you tell me that is only 3 hours' work?" he exclaimed, looking at the lawyer. "It is really a marvelous achievement." "My brother is a very rapid worker," replied Stopford dejectedly. "Yes, but this is not only amazingly rapid, it is in his very happiest vein, full of spirit and feeling. But we mustn't stay to look at it longer." He replaced the canvas on its pins, and, having glanced at the locket and some other articles that lay in a drawer, thanked the inspector for his courtesy, and withdrew. "That sketch and the color box appear very suggestive to me," he remarked, as we walked up the street. "To me also," said Stopford gloomily, "for they are under lock and key, like their owner, poor old fellow." He sighed heavily, and we walked on in silence. The mortuary keeper had evidently heard of our arrival, for he was waiting at the door with the key in his hand, and on being shown the coroner's order unlocked the door, and we entered together,